All right. Mayor Martin, thank you so much for having time to speak with me today, especially on this sensitive topic of racism. We have seen all that has been happening. So welcome and thank you so much. There's a lot of East African people that are out there. They want to hear what you have to say about all this. So you want to introduce yourself? You want to say something to get us started?
Well, I would just like to say that we'll get into talking about Tyler, Texas, which is the town that I know and have been very involved with.
Right.
But I grew up in Tyler and I have been involved in politics here for probably 35 years. And so I have been mayor for the last 6 years, and we have term limits. So I have a 6-year term, and then I've served 4 years as a city councilman before.
Okay.
So that's just a little bit of background on me.
Okay.
You know, you say this is a very sensitive topic. Well, I think it's very important as we all go through dialogue on racism, that it's good to be uncomfortable.
Right.
Because then we begin to understand one another so much more.
Right.
But you know, this horrible tragedy and the brutality of what we saw has impacted all of us worldwide, I know.
Right.
And it has affected us in this community. Now, one thing about I can say about Tyler, which I know you'll have a bunch of questions for me, but we're a very close-knit community. We're a very diverse community, but we're also very close. And we're a very strong faith-based community. And so while we've had protests all week, and I've been to every one of the protests, they've all been peaceful. And most of them have been led by faith-based leaders from all over the community, not just the African-American community, but the Hispanic community, the white community. All of us have been together at the event. So from a religious standpoint, our faith really impacts a town like Tyler, Texas.
Okay. All right. So I was going to ask you, you have served 2 terms now. What is the state of race relations in your city?
You know, the thing that's important to us, and again, I'll go back to saying that I've been in Tyler my adult life, I think about 35 to 40 years now. And and that's why it's kind of uncomfortable looking at a screen, because I see how old I am now. But race relations do not start when a tragedy happens. Race relations go back with me 30 to 40 years in this community. And so that's the important thing. The communities that can successfully bridge gaps between their diverse populations. You can't wait till a tragedy happens.
Right.
You have to have those relationships long before. And so, and I think not only myself as an elected official, but all our elected officials really have worked basically from a faith-based standpoint to reach out over the many, many years. And so when an event like this happens, I'm not needing to pick up the telephone to introduce myself to someone right from a different background, because we really work hard at having those relationships, and so does the police department. We work for years on this. One thing that's been a little bit different for us during this event, which as horrible as the brutality and the sadness of this event, the positive that I've seen is so many new young leaders have popped up in our community, and I think it has probably all over the country. But for us older leaders that have dealt with racism in the past, and for example, many of the faith-based leaders and elected African American officials,
Right.
and Tyler, we're pretty much older now, right? So we're now learning and seeing the new leaders of our community, the 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds that are really stepping up to do the protesting.
Yeah.
And so that's, I consider that a very good positive, because it's the young people. And when I've listened at all these events, one thing that I've been so impressed with, and I've seen it in my own daughter, the younger generations in my community completely reject any sort of bias or racism. So that's what I've been so proud of. People having nonviolent protest and standing up against racism. And it's not just it's black, brown, and white. It's everybody.
It has been diverse.
Yes, and that's been so positive in my opinion.
Yeah, we have seen a lot of diversity. You know, we've seen a lot of white people stand with black people, which is really encouraging, because it shows that it is not only black people that are tired of it, white people are tired of it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, what's made well, there has been so many other men, you know, black men that have been killed, but what sparked the current protests is the death of George Floyd. So I wanted to ask you, Derek, the police officer that you know, is allegedly killed him until he's proven guilty. We can say that he's guilty. But the thing is, he served for 19 years and has been involved in 3 shootings, has had 17 complaints. Only one of those 17 complaints against him resulted in disciplinary action, constituting to 2 letters of reprimanding. And that is according to police records. Is the system broken? When do you, as a mayor, step in to implement disciplinary action? Do you get to see these videos? Do you get to know that a police officer, you know, requires disciplinary action? When does it get to your desk?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in what you just said. The shocking thing to me about this particular incident, and the thing that bothered me the most, on besides the brutality, but on the question that you're asking, what bothered me the most is that officer had 19 years worth of experience.
Right.
So he should have absolutely known better, to have the proper training. And I think I just heard that 2 of the officers had been working just for a very short period of time. And so it's incumbent upon officers that have served that long to be great leaders instead of his actions. And you know, there's just really no excuse for a person that has been on the force that long to do that. And you know, every police department is different. And let me kind of give you, since your viewers, since there's going to be some in East Africa, as you state, the government is very interesting of how the hierarchy is set up. Okay. In a town like Tyler, Texas, we have a city manager form of government.
Okay.
And I am a volunteer mayor. We don't get paid. Okay.
Oh.
So in some of the larger cities, and it's just kind of a random selection, in some of the larger cities in America, the mayor runs the entire administration of city government.
Okay.
But as a mayor in a city manager form of government, I have 1 employee in my city operation. The city council sits more as a board of directors.
Okay.
We have a city manager that runs all the employees of the city. We have about 900 employees. So the city manager runs it and hires the police chief.
Okay.
Police chief and the assistant police chief levels
Mhm.
lose their civil service protection once they become a chief or an assistant chief.
Right.
So what I'm getting to is we have something called civil service.
Mhm.
Civil service is governed by state law.
Right.
Okay, so the mayor is separated from the civil service operations of officers.
Okay.
So that's why it's going to be a mix in America. If you have a larger city like New York City, the mayor
Mhm.
runs the entire administration. But in
Mm.
most cities
Mhm.
of the size of a Tyler, which is
Okay.
over 100,000,
Mhm.
it's going to be run through civil service laws that are all based on state of Texas law. In
Okay.
fact, when a police officer has a grievance, for example, it goes to a civil service board
Okay.
within the city of Tyler.
So civil
And,
service reprimands police officers if they needed it?
no, the police chief does that.
The police chief, okay.
The police chief does that, and I do have a little information
Mhm.
on that because our police chief will have the ability to step up and do different levels of reprimanding through the civil service laws
Okay.
of the state of Texas.
Okay.
And that does lead to the point that would be can be firing of officers.
Okay.
And so yes, if I would state that as a mayor, I would want my police chief
Mhm.
and I would encourage,
Mhm.
because I will be listening to my citizens.
Mhm.
If we continue to see officers that are bad apples,
Right.
then it is our job to weed them out of our system.
Mhm.
And it is the police chief that does that. But our officers, they do not want bad apples in the
Right.
police department. They work hard because they know that if one officer makes a horrible mistake, just like this guy intentionally,
Mhm.
I believe, had brutality that no one is taught,
Mhm.
according to my police chief and what I've asked, no one is taught to do that kind of
Right.
maneuver where you put a knee on someone's neck.
So
Right.
who does the
So-
police chief answer to?
The police chief answers to the city manager, the city council, and the public.
When does it get to the mayor?
Well, it gets to me just as soon as there is an incident that happens.
Okay.
But the mayor does not have the authority to fire officers in the state of Texas. That has to go through the civil service provisions of the state of Texas.
Okay.
So that's going to be pretty universal throughout America.
Wow.
And the reason that was done many years ago in America is to keep politics out of policing, right?
Okay.
Because in the past,
Mhm.
you didn't want a mayor to be making decisions on police officers that get hired or fired, because you don't want politics involved in it. The whole idea is that you would get the most professional trained officers
Mhm.
based on their credibility and their experience.
Mhm.
And you didn't want a city council person or a mayor to just turn around and be able to fire someone that they just didn't like for some reason,
Mhm.
or wasn't doing what a political person wanted them to do. So that's why the civil service laws were put into place. So it's a good system because it keeps politics out of it.
Right.
However, when issues like this come up, where we all agree, and there's not going to be anyone in my police department that doesn't agree
Right.
with the brutality of that incident.
Mhm.
But that's just the way the system's set up, right or wrong. correct? But there,
let me just plug in my charger. Computer just.
sure.
Okay, we're good.
So, that's just some background on how that is. But the shocking part is, and I know our officers and police chief would be, we have always prided ourselves with a couple different items in Tyler, is that we're the highest paid police force in Northeast Texas. So what we do is we make sure we are hiring the very best people, and we're giving them the highest pay. So we do have a lot of officers that have 20 to 25 years of experience. And we have found that to be a positive, because they were become very known within all communities, and they are able to build those positive relationships. So then when I see that the Minneapolis person was a 19-year veteran and had those issues, that's disturbing. But generally in police departments, the more that you're able to retain employees for a long time in your community, that means they have been able to form the relationships with the communities they serve. And so normally that's really surprising to me. And
it is actually surprising because I've seen a few articles saying that George and this officer, they knew each other. They worked in a club together. And so I guess working for so long, as a police officer and creating relationships with people doesn't necessarily protect some of the people. So, but I want to go to the next question. Is it possible for a police officer fired for misconduct to be hired again in another police department? Do you guys do background checks? I know you said that it's the chief of police, but are there background checks that are done to weed out bad apples?
Absolutely. And but I'll have to answer one question. I'll have to read something, because you're saying, can they go to another police department?
Right.
In Texas, and this is from my police chief. I thought that might be a question, so I had to get an answer from him on that, since that's not my. He said in Texas, as long as they can carry their Texas Commission on Law Enforcement license, the decision rests upon each individual department and their hiring processes. So yes, if someone, for example, was fired from the City of Tyler Police Department, then another law enforcement agency could hire that individual, because it will be their choice. But for the city, I will tell you that we do, because we're the highest paid police department in Northeast Texas.
You are the highest paid?
In Northeast Texas.
Okay.
Northeast Texas has a population of about 1 million people, 1.5 million people, but we're the largest city in Northeast Texas. And so we pay the most. So that way, it gives us comfort as a city council that if we're paying the most, then we can have the highest standards in our hiring practices. But we do extensive background checks. We'll do personal history statements. We do credit checks. We do criminal histories. We do drug tests. Not only the physical fitness test, but we also do polygraph exams. And we have interview boards for each person that we hire. So we really try and make an effort.
So all those tests that you just mentioned, is that standard for every city?
I can't speak for every city. I just don't know, but that's what we do.
Okay. All right, I want to go to, I know some viewers are going to have some questions, so I kind of want to go through what I had, that way I can go back and see what they're asking, so I can see they're talking. So according to statistics, a Black man is 3 times likely to be killed, 1.3 times likely to be unarmed compared to a white person. And that's, I got that from Police Mapping. Then statistics continue to show that about 54% of mass shootings between 1982 and February of this year were carried out by a white person. So my question is, if that is what statistics are showing, is there a problem of police training, or does it point to ingrained systemic racial bias? Should a Black and brown person trust a police officer?
I don't know the statistics nationally, right? Because I just don't know. We actually look at the local level. What's important for us is the relationships that we make within our own community. Right. And those are horrible statistics. There's no question about it.
Right.
One thing that we also do with our police department is there is a designation, a certification that we have been certified since 1995. And it's a special program. It's through a program called CALEA, which is the Combined Law Enforcement Association.
Yeah.
There's about 4% of all police departments and sheriff's departments in the United States that are certified. And we get recertified every 4 years.
Okay.
And with that is extensive. It's a very hard program to be certified. But with that, they require us to do best practices, and that is not only on how we interact with diverse populations. There's an extreme amount of training that goes into that. There's also an extreme amount of on the use of force. By the way, there's specific best practices that are on through that training program.
Okay.
So yeah, I do. Fully acknowledge that there is definitely racism that still exists in America, but for us the main thing is talking about it within our community with our community leaders and making sure that we are doing everything we can to train our police officers.
So with all that training that you just mentioned, do you know if police officers have continuing education?
Oh, yes. This recertification process that we go through, all police officers are involved in that research.
How often do they get to be recertified?
It is, I believe, it's every 3 years.
Every 3 years.
So the process after we get certified on this CALEA certification, the process starts over.
Right.
It's about a 3-year training process, and then the police chief I know has retraining consistently.
Right.
With our officers. But I'm just answering the questions as you're asking, right? But I don't want to ever diminish from the horror that occurred last week, right? I'm not trying to downplay that, but I'm just trying to answer what is important in our community, right?
I understand. And actually, people just wanted to know what your views are. So looking back at George Floyd, he kept saying, I can't breathe. And, people that were there, they were also saying, you're hurting him. He can't breathe. They kept saying that. But my question is, so how much medical knowledge do police officers have for this or any other police officer to know that someone is in distress so they can stop?
Number one, I guess that video lasted around 9 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I think I got through about a minute or two of it.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't watch it anymore because, I mean, as much as you train people, I mean, who in the world would treat another human being like that?
Right.
I mean, knowing that that is an issue.
Right.
So even if he was a 19-year veteran, and we know surely he had been retrained. I don't know what the Minneapolis. I've never been to Minneapolis. I don't even know anybody from Minneapolis, right? So I don't know what they're doing. But surely he had been trained not to do that. So why would a human being even do that, right? But yes, I mean, so not only do we always make an effort to have, and if you're certified as an EMT, that also helps you become a police officer, right? Because you know more. All our fire department members are really EMTs,
right,
at this point. So, and I do know that we go through a training process,
right,
at the police department to help people get a certain level of EMT training or understanding of life-saving techniques. And then the training has to do with the proper use of force and how to implement that if you're in a situation that you need to arrest someone.
So just to be clear, it is possible that this police officer could have had enough medical knowledge to probably even check pulse and know that
I don't know, but I mean, if you're a 19-year veteran of the police department, I mean, I don't know any excuse why you would not know that.
Yeah.
I just, but of course, I don't know the specifics on that event. And I'm kind of like, I'm just hearing over the news like you are that two of the officers seem to be like on duty for only a couple weeks.
But before they went on duty, they must have gone through training.
I would have hoped so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to go back to your city, though. What are your policies and procedures on police use of force, and do you think they need to be amended?
Well,
with everything that you have seen, are you okay?
Well, we are always very transparent in our community. We get awards all the time for being transparent. So our use of force is, you can find it on the Tyler Police Department website. Right. They actually have it defined. And the main thing is, for me, I don't know each one of those items, right? And that's to ask the police chief for sure. You're welcome to do so. And you can go to the website and look at it. But again, going back to the CALEA certification that we have, they have looked at all the best practices, and they require the City of Tyler Police Department to follow those best practices.
Right.
And what's good about the CALEA board is that there's a national organization for Black police officers, and that is one of the 4 cornerstones of that CALEA process.
Okay.
And so there is definitely worked into that. Those documents will be based on your CALEA certification, again, which only 4% of the police forces in America have, and that will be in our best practices. So each and every one is available to go to the website and look. But I mean, and I want you to also know that here we also meet with the police chief has a set group of folks that he meets with consistently. The NAACP, we have a group, Tyler Race Relations. We have different groups like that actually come to the police department, and they visit with us, and I get called into those meetings, and just anything on referring any of those items that we go over a wide range of topics all the time.
Okay, so I'm going to read a question that I got from one of
Okay,
the viewers.
sure.
And the question reads, how do we know that our brothers, sons, husbands who are of color are safe in your city? What have you done as a mayor to facilitate this?
You know, I think that, um, like I said at the very beginning, the important thing is not to wait till we have an issue to deal with topics of race. And excuse me, my phone's ringing. Let me turn it off. You can't wait till an incident occurs. You really have to be working with the police department leadership. You have to be working with the city and with all our diverse populations in advance.
Right.
And we also have a report that you can find on our website that will be related to traffic stops. We send all the police data, for example, out every year to, and I don't know if other city governments do it, but we do it. But we send, I think it might be a state or federal regulation, I'm not sure, but we download all the traffic stops and we send it out to a private firm that's not related to anybody within the city, to an outside firm, and they look at all that data. And then they make sure the traffic stops are not showing any sort of racial profiling. And then that document is presented back to the city council for our review. And because we want to make sure the stops that are made represent the diverse population we have, right? And so we go through that process every year. That document is sent to us, and I believe it should be on the City of Tyler website, that document, because that's open to the public for review as well. And we always provide that information to the NAACP, Tyler Race Relations. We make sure that we provide those documents. You know, we all pray together in this community that we will not have an incident like happened in Minneapolis.
Right.
But there's never a guarantee. We all have to work together and do the best we very can, but that's why it's so important to do race relations. Like I've said, I've done it for 35, 40 years.
So in that case, I do have a question from actually somebody from Nairobi, Kenya.
Right.
And so yes. And so the question is there leadership? Is there, what did they say? Is there leadership? Is the leadership in your management diversified?
Oh yes, very much so. In fact,
it's the leadership of your top city.
Yes. In fact, we have really 10 key leaders in city government, and 50% are African American. The fire chief, who came, he was an assistant chief in Fort Worth, Texas. And we chose him as our chief. And I mean, he's incredible. The chief financial officer for the city, the head attorney for the city of Tyler is an African-American woman, human resources and managing director, and the head of all the entire water utility department, which is our largest, besides the police department, is our largest department in the city.
So someone had texted me and sent me a question, and they said, is his office doing or done any identifiable activities to benefit race, immigration, cohesion, unique from any other city across America, which makes every resident of the county be proud to identify with?
Well, I hope so. We have done. I don't think, all your viewers are going to be familiar with the Southern United States
Mhm.
and the history
Right.
in the Southern United States. The very positive thing is
Mhm.
that since the Civil Rights Movement in the
Mhm.
60s and the 70s, places in the South,
Right.
and that's why I don't know much about Minneapolis, right? Because it's
Mhm.
not in the South. But
Mhm.
in the South, we have dealt with issues for years.
Okay.
I mean, um, I was involved with an African American leader who I guess is my age as well now, and we're
Mhm.
both older. But we worked on a process uh, 30 years ago to create a majority, and this is the language when it comes to when you do census and then you do redistricting to create boundaries for different election
Right.
districts, right? So we created the first majority minority justice of the peace and constable district in Smith County.
Okay.
And so since that time, 30 years ago,
Mhm.
now we have an African American constable and an African American justice of the peace office.
Okay.
And so those are in areas that reflects the people they serve. And so in movements like that
Mhm.
always provide opportunities for African American leaders to get into elected office.
Okay.
We have done that with city council districts,
Mhm.
school district elections, county commission
Mhm.
elections. So we have great representation from the African American community on not only within the community, but in elected offices. We, in fact, the same African American friend of mine that we
Mhm.
worked 30 years ago
Mhm.
on creating the constable and JP office,
Mhm.
which is it's an important. Those are important offices
Mhm.
within county government.
Right.
We went through the process in the last 4 to 5 years.
Mhm.
We have modified so much of our municipal court because we're the only court that we have any sort of influence over.
Mhm.
We don't have the county government does all the district courts that do all the police cases and the district attorney's office. That's all county. But
Okay.
we have a municipal court,
Mhm.
but we revamped the municipal court
Okay.
to make sure that lower income individuals that
Mhm.
come before the court
Right.
have much more options
Okay.
in being able to either pay their funds out over time, do
Mhm.
positive community service instead of paying for tickets.
Mhm.
Because we
Okay.
in the past we've had instances
Mhm.
where uh, a lower income family would get a traffic ticket,
Mhm.
and because they didn't have the money to pay,
Mhm.
then would add on another fee,
Right.
then would add on another fee.
And then they go to
And
jail.
so, and then it would get to the point that they couldn't pay the fine at all, and it was easier to go to serve a weekend in jail
Right.
or a week in jail.
Mhm.
Well, that's not a positive thing for any human being
Right. Right.
to have a traffic ticket and to spend time in jail.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, what we did is we modified the court system.
Mhm.
In fact, we have new judges.
Mhm.
We have a new decentralized process.
Okay.
Different different departments in the city
Okay.
are involved in the municipal court to make sure that they're all looking for any sort of inequities.
Mhm.
And it really has been a very positive turn for the municipal court system in our community.
Okay.
So the things that we can work on,
Mhm.
we can do, but the system is so the system is so large, right?
Right.
That the cities cannot, we just can't control everything. Of course, you know, the sheriffs, your viewers may or may not know the distinction, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have a police force within the city limits of the city of Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Our city is 110,000 people. The county has another population outside of the city of about 120,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like 7 other smaller cities or so. I think there might even be 9 in our county, right?
Okay.
So they all have their small police departments.
Mm-hmm.
And then the sheriff's office deals with all the area that's not within a municipality.
I see.
Then there's the sheriff's officers as
Mm-hmm.
well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a wide, I mean, there's law
So
enforcement.
are you saying that some of these policies need to be amended from the state, maybe?
Well, when you come to civil service laws,
Mm-hmm.
that is all state
Okay.
legislature and the governors. They do not extend those controls down to the city level, really.
I see.
Those are through the state legislature and the governor's office. The governor and the legislature also control what goes on in the sheriff's departments
Mm-hmm.
around the state and around the country. So the governor and the legislature have so
Mm-hmm.
much ability to modify some of those rules that we don't.
Okay, I want to take one more question here because
Sure.
we are almost going to an hour now. So this
Sure.
is from one of the viewers. His name is Cornelius Kibetsige. I'm not sure where he's watching
Mhm.
from,
Right.
but he says, do you have any programs, social programs, with which they offer opportunities for the public to gain some interaction, foster relationships with the public, and so forth? How can
Oh, yeah.
I guess he means how can somebody reach out to the public with education assurance, sort of, that they are there to help the citizens, not bring problems to them, especially in the Black community?
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Let me give you a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you 2 items that are fascinating about how we try to do government locally. But number one of the things that we have found to be very effective from a policing standpoint,
Right.
is about 5% of our officers are involved in community policing.
Okay.
That is something that we actually, they are available
Mm-hmm.
and to do crime watch meetings, and they do them consistently within the areas that they are assigned to.
Yeah.
Where police officers are going to folks that are in need
Mm-hmm.
and want to have a better understanding of the police department or crime in their area.
Mm-hmm.
They'll go and do community meetings within those neighborhoods,
Right.
and bring crime statistics and talk
Mm-hmm.
to neighbors, because I think community policing is such a great answer, right?
Right.
Because people get to know their police officer and their police force, or at least one officer.
Mm-hmm.
That officer gives out their cell phone number and their office number. So if anybody in that community, things going on with the police department,
Mm-hmm.
they're uncomfortable with, they know they can call that community police
Okay.
office. And to have 10 available in our community of our size, that's very good. And that is a program that has grown over the years. We do the crime night out that is coordinated by the community police officers. One night a year, there's parties in all neighborhoods
Mm-hmm.
that we go outside, and we're like, we're going to stand up against crime in our neighborhood. So
Right.
there's a lot of interaction that we do. Now, the way our city government works is different than the federal government and the state government. Okay. And we're different from a lot of other cities in America. And we like the model I'm about to describe.
Mm-hmm.
Our government, our local government, doesn't do social services. We do things like we do the fire, we do the police, we do parks, we pick up your trash, we provide water, we provide sewer. So we look at ourselves as small business enterprises, right? Mainly, if you take police and fire out of it, all the other stuff we do, we're there to serve the community.
Right.
And we do those as business enterprises, and we try to strive for customer service. Okay. But when it comes to social services, we have a huge interwoven faith-based groups, religious groups of all denominations, by the way, but mainly the faith-based Christian organizations that are tied in with, I think in our community, we have about 100 churches. And then we also have so many nonprofit organizations, right? And these nonprofit organizations are the ones that we support. And I spend a lot of my time working with nonprofit organizations. We have one called Mentoring Alliance, for example. And they had the event on the square last night. They were a part of it. It's a very intentional multi-ethnic organization where they are going out and, for example, we through the mayor's office and through their program, we're working on mentoring, where I believe their organization is up to several hundred individuals now, where they provide Christian men and women that will match with younger children of need in our community and become almost a big brother, big sister type organization, but even more than that. And so there's all sorts of organizations we have that reach out across all ethnic groups. And I think they do. I think faith-based groups and nonprofits do it a lot better than government people do.
So, Mr. Mayor, we are about, so I just want to ask you one last question and then we can wrap it up. So first of all, let me give a shout out to some of the people that are actually watching. We have Catherine Gaduka, Amoti Jolie, Lucy Tifase, Jennifer Amunga, Judy, George Karaoke, Wangeshi Gikonyo, Magi, Mita, Catherine Jenga. Oh my God, we have a lot of people that are watching. I can't even say all their names, but I just want to say thank you so much to everybody that is watching. So lastly, I just want you to give your call to action. You have seen the protest. You have also acknowledged, that even with the protests these protests have been so diverse. So it's not just Black people saying that we are tired of this, because sometimes, if it's crossfire, it's not going to be just Black people dying. There might be white people that are going to get hurt in the course of it. So what is your call to action so we all can live together and know that, white, Black, that's just pigmentation and it has nothing to do with what a person is. What is your call to action, Mr. Mayor?
Well, it is all our responsibility to continue to listen and to all different communities, but it is our responsibility to act and to stand up against any sort of injustice and inequity in our society. And that is the leadership that can come from the mayor and the city council, but it also comes from the community. And we all have a responsibility to step up and to say enough is enough, and that we're all going to do our part. And that includes all sorts of different people within our community. And we just have to learn to make sure that we're loving one another, we're caring for one another, we're praying for one another, and that that whatever we can do, each individual person in the community, not even just an elected official, but people that work in all sorts of different walks of life, whatever they can do to erase racism in our community, we need to support them and encourage them to do so. And as much and as horrible as this tragedy has been, I think that's the positive. That's the positive that's in my community. We haven't had any violence. We've only had good, prayerful protesting. And I think it's going to make us stronger in our community. And I think it's going to erase more of the racism that we have. And it's
Right.
all our responsibilities to step up and to be
Yeah.
involved in that
Yeah.
process.
Okay. With that, I really want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. I'm sure a lot of people I have gotten educated. There's a lot of things that I didn't know about city government, and
Yes, it's
so I've gotten so much education. And I hope to have you on another time, maybe for a different topic or whatever. Thank you so much. You enjoy your weekend, and continue having a good city with no racism.
Thank you. It's an effort, but we're trying. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Bye-bye.